This is the Bring Your Worth Show, Bring Your Worth TV. My name is Damon Brown. I am your host, executive producer, founder of Bring Your Worth Publishing, et cetera, et cetera. I'm here to help you get to the next level as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. My specialty is helping you get to your side hustle, to get to the support you need, to level up your emotional intelligence, to build up that passive income, any support that you might not be able to get from the mainstream world. If we're part of different cultures, you know what I'm talking about. I'm here to help you build that infrastructure that you need to get to the next level. I come to you every Wednesday and Sunday, at least most Wednesdays and Sundays, always at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. If you like these kind of vibes, if you want to learn from a business coach and someone who's helped hundreds of people at this point, I've even sold my own startups. Be sure and subscribe to get as much game as possible. It is free. Just click the link below, or just go to bringyourworth.tv and check it out. If you're over on Amazon, you can follow me on there. If you're following me or checking me out on LinkedIn, then you can always click all the links below. I don't think all the links are available on Amazon, but for all the stuff I'm going to be talking about, Amazon, y'all have the advantage where if there's anything you want to purchase, you can just click and go from there, and check it out. And my new book coming out October 20th, just under a month from now, the complete Bring Your Worth collection. It's almost all my collected works, definitely all my independent work from the past, 7 years. The first Bring Your Worth book called The Bite-Sized Entrepreneur, y'all made it a bestseller, so thank you. That came out around the time my second son was born. He just turned 7 a few months ago. This is almost all the work from that period of time. It's about 6-7 books in here. I am not exaggerating. Be sure and check it out. It's the first time I've had them all together. It just felt like a good time to kind of put a capstone on it. There's so much stuff we talked about. It's about 100,000 words in here, y'all. I am not exaggerating. So be sure and check it out. It's a great deal if you're looking to catch up on my collected works, the stuff we talk about in the Bring Your Worth show, or if you're a completist like I am, and you want the complete collection, this is a good place to start. You can get it at all the links below. Obviously on Amazon, y'all have the links right there, but the links are also below my big head down here. You can also get it from the indie bookstores at bookshop.org. The links are right below. I'm an indie publisher, so if you want to do, double word score and buy from an indie publisher, from an indie bookstore, just go to bookshop.org. They have lots of deals going on. Banned Book Week is coming up in a week or two. I think it's first week of October. Shout out to all the banned books that I've written. We'll talk about that in another episode, but be sure and support them as they make sure that media is free. Not free as in low cost, but free as far as available to everybody. And of course, you can get it through damonbrown.net if you want a signed copy from my little hands. In case you missed it, it's been a bonanza this whole month. Right now, we're recording this towards the end of September. It's the last week of September. Almost every single work day, aside from when we are celebrating Labor Day here in the States, every work day I've been live with y'all at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. And this all kicked off with a marathon. This is 9 hours long. Make 2024 profitable. All the insight and game that I have over the past year compiled into one 9-hour session. We're talking about emotional intelligence. We're talking about passive income. We're talking about building something from nothing, which I talk about is a theme of a lot of the books that I've written. All the energy is in there. Thousands of y'all tuned in. Be sure and check it out. You do not want to miss this. And as I've always said in the many episodes we've done this month, this works really well as an audio podcast. You do not need to look at my mug the whole time. So if you're washing dishes, if you're playing with your kids as I do, if you're doing a road trip, if you did a long walk, as I did a very long walk this morning, I'll talk about that in a second. This is perfect vibe for that. Tune into the audio, check it out. I made this for y'all, and it's actually the longest episode we've ever done. Like I said, I think it's just under 9 hours. Ooh, it took a lot, but I'm happy to provide that kind of energy for y'all to help you get ready. Again, as of this recording, it's the end of September. 2024 is knocking. Let's get right? My favorite episode, one of my favorite episodes from last week, was on Friday. Might have been the most important live episode I've ever done. I do not take this lightly. According to all the statistics, this is my 90th live with the Bring Your Worth show. This might have been my favorite one that I did, which was the one I did last Friday. It was understanding artist contracts. If you've coached with me, if you've worked with me, hell, if you've even gotten a drink with me, we had a conversation at TED or at the ASJ conference. Shout out to both of y'all or whatever. Eventually we're going to talk about ownership. We're talking about artist empowerment as far as empowering themselves. And we're going to talk about intellectual property and rights. I break all that down into this 45-minute live session. Try to answer some of y'all's questions. I am not a lawyer. Let's be clear. I just love law. My 27th book in the complete Bring Your Worth collections coming out in October. And so I'm familiar with these different types of arenas. I've signed bad contracts, quote unquote. I've signed really good ones. I've negotiated out of bad ones. I've been in those situations. Some of y'all are actually in that situation now. I'm trying to get as much insight as possible. Please do not miss this episode. Out of all the episodes I'm recommending, catch this one. It's a very important episode. If y'all have been watching me for a while, you know I do not say that often, but this might have been the best live episode we've done yet. Be sure and check it out. Do not miss it. And last week was a blockbuster. Exactly a week ago, we had James Oliver Jr. on the program, or actually, he had me on his program. Shout out to James. He's the founder of the Parentpreneur Foundation, which is all about supporting African American entrepreneurs who are also parents, usually with little kids. I fall into that category. There's a big overlap. My kids are 7 and 10, as I implied earlier, and I did my startups while being stay-at-home dad. So there's a lot going on there that James and I have in common. Shout out to his little twins. I think his twins are 10 years old now. We had this great conversation about how I went from a few hundred subscribers to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube on the Bring Your Worth.tv show within a month. I break it down. The hint is it requires hard work. As many of y'all said in the comments, y'all appreciate the honesty there. There's no magical hack. There's no, nothing up my sleeve. There's no fancy stuff here. It's just showing up for the community, in this case, y'all, as much as possible within the means that you have available. But I break it down into 3 actionable tips. Hope y'all can run with it and build up your own stuff. All right, today's show is a special show. We're talking about 40 books to transform your life. Today is my birthday, and I am above 40. I'll put it out there, but 40 seemed like a really nice number. And books have been so transformative from when I was much younger than my second son all the way to now. I mean, if you've been watching the show, there's books recently that have just blown my mind. Shout out to Seth Godin. Shout out to, oh my gosh, there's so many people. It's a long list. Anyway, all the books that I talk about today and then some are right below. If you're watching on Amazon, it's on my iPad over here. You're watching on Amazon. All the books are available there. Check it out. Feed your head, get that good energy. So I figured with this rotation around the sun, it felt like a good time to kind of take stock. Yeah, I guess I am that old, but take stock, but also to reflect and pay homage, however you want to do it, homage to the creators, particularly the authors that helped me get to the next level. And so the best thing I can do as a president is share that with y'all, which I so appreciate. Hey, salute. Thank you. Thank you. And speaking of, because I know you would respect this, my shirt also represents where I'm from, which is New Jersey. Now, that general area from Old Bay, which is closer to Maryland, all the way up to Atlantic City, which is where I was born X amount of years ago. We won't say how many years. That represents that. Camilo, I know New Jersey is close to your heart as well. This Old Bay shirt means a lot because Old Bay seasoning has been a staple for the different seafoods and the different family gatherings that I've had over the years. They are not, right? Talk about it. They are not a sponsor of the show. I repeat, they're not a sponsor of the show. But Old Bay, if you want to talk to me, you can make it happen. Happy to holler. I've done full food episodes, as some of y'all know. So let's represent that too. Represent it well. I actually asked for this shirt from a recent holiday, and some family members were able to hook me up with it. It's a hard to find shirt. Now it's actually more available. Let me put this away so you can see some of it. So it's basically the stuff that you would see on the side of the box. It's an amazing seasoning. It actually works really well on eggs and like steak and other types of meats, but it's really made for seafood. So you got the mirror camera here. See little crab here, which also represents me and my culture. I figured I'd share it on my big day. If you want the Old Bay shirt, it's actually available in a lot more places. My family had to hunt for this shirt. It was out of stock for a while. Be sure and check it out. The links are below, and that's what I could pass on. All right. And thanks for the feedback, Camille. I appreciate the love. All right. So I want to hear from y'all. I'm going to post some questions up there. How have books impacted you? I have 4 questions. Let me know what books or audiobooks, which I'll get into in a second, have influenced your life and helped you for the period of time you've been in. All right. So let's start with the beginning. What book showed you what was possible? This was really important to me, and feel free to play along. If you're on Amazon, all 40 of the books are on there, as well as a t-shirt. So you can play along on there. And then for y'all that are also watching at home, you can check out the links in the chat. And everything I'm talking about, again, is below. It's a little bit more extensive at bringingworth.tv, so be sure and check it out because there's certain limitations. Like I literally hit the cap as far as how many things I could talk about on LinkedIn and on Amazon. So we talk about 40 books, just to warn you, there's a lot of content there. So feel free to dig in now, or when you watch the replay later on and there's more books you want to get into. There's a few books that fit into this category. There's a lot of them, in fact, most of them. But the one that really stood out when I was trying to make this list, which was hard, it was a hard list. Again, I've done 27 books myself. You know what I mean? So I love books. The one that stands out is this one, Fast Food Nation, The Dark Side of the All-American Meal. Do you see how brown these pages are? These pages are almost as brown as I am. Like these are brown pages. So I want to say this book came out around the time I was done with grad school, which was in the early 2000s. I'll leave it at that. And I got my master's in magazine publishing. And what this book taught me was that it's possible to take something that everyone believes they know, such as fast food meals. I learned more about that, way more about that when I became a parent, what to avoid and not avoid and all that stuff. Other parents can relate to this. You can take something that's as cliche, as a provincial, I'll pull out all my fancy words today, as mundane as a fast food meal, and then talk about the different challenges that are happening with migrants, particularly from Mexico, Central America, and even some South American countries. You can talk about the bioengineering. This is when GMOs first started, or at least when we first heard about it. You can put on your tin hat for that one. When we first heard about GMOs was a couple decades ago. You can talk about the political system and how things work. You can talk about the scientists who are also in New Jersey, believe it or not. There's a whole chapter about New Jersey and how they are chemically engineering the fries that you eat at McDonald's to make them more addictive. Deep stuff. That is not a conspiracy. There's a whole chapter on it. This guy, Eric Schlosser, shout out to him, is a well-known and respected journalist. I got my master's in magazine publishing, so I respect and see the craft in this. And it was one of the best books I ever read to show not only what was possible as far as educating the public, but also what was possible as far as the other side of it, as far as being a creator, as far as being a journalist. You could be a hard-nosed, as I scratch my nose, you could be a hard-nosed journalist, or you can be one of the feature writers, which is a lot of stuff that I did, like the softer journalism, as they call it, or people stories, things of that nature. But then you could take those skills from the newspaper world, from the magazine world, from the online world, because blogs and online publishing was just starting at that time, again, a couple decades ago. And you could apply it to a 600-page book This became a bestseller many times over. This is the first paperback edition, but there's many new editions of it. I think there's even movies connected to it. They came out and sold the movie rights. So there's a movie that's based on it loosely, talking about the system that goes into getting your kids chicken nuggets. The depth and the power of it really changed the course of my career, because I was like, oh, I can talk about anything. I can talk about the golden arches and what, because I didn't have kids yet. So it's like a cheap meal, like a Big Mac or whatever, that my friends and I might get. And I can have a whole discussion about the history of America. This gets to the history of America. When I was heavily involved in the publishing industry, they would call this a micro history, which means you take one particular thing, like a Happy Meal, and you're able to tell the history, the All American Meal, the history of America based on that. And we're talking about racism. We're talking about immigration. We're talking about, again, public policies. We're talking about health. We're talking about science. We're talking about genetic engineering and GMOs. Right when they started becoming a discussion point, like just the amount of eye-opening things in here. I read this regularly. I used to read it every year. Now I read it like every other year. In fact, it's about time for me to read it now. Fantastic book. If you have not checked it out, if you are a creator, as in a writer or a journalist or an author, you need this on your shelf to see what's possible, even to this day, as the meme says. If you are into consuming food, which most of us are, and or you want to understand the dynamics that go into immigration and or policies, there's even shout out to Upton Sinclair with his book The Jungle, which came out at the turn of the last century, about a century and 20 years ago, which was inspiration for this. You go back and read that, and there are so many things that he reformed that end up being reformed based on that book, which was based in Chicago and the stockyards. Shout out to Chicago. As I said, I was a graduate at Northwestern. All that history, all that change can happen from just one book. Eric did the exact same thing on a bigger scale, obviously, because things are way more global now with Fast Food Nation. Even some of the stuff that's being revealed in, you give a shout out in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. And I want to say in Kansas, where they just discovered serious child labor and some of the stockyards slash chicken coop places. Like there's so many different names for it, butchers, what have you. And there's like kids that are a little bit older than my eldest kid who just turned 10, his age, they're doing this stuff. They talk about child labor in here. So there's so many things that are still relevant today. Please get this book, one of my highest recommendations of all the stuff I'm talking about in here. So for y'all, what books showed you what was possible? For me, again, it was Fast Food Nation. I'll throw the link up. But what showed you what was possible? For me, Eric's stellar work, he won all kinds of awards, became a bestseller. It showed me that I could change the world based on the work I was doing. If that's not power, if that's not motivation, I don't know what is. What more do you need to get up in the morning? The shit that you're going to do is going to transform the world or has a possibility to do so. What more do you need? For me, that's what I needed. His work has still over 1 million copies sold, so I'm not the only one. I just noticed that at the top. And it's back in the day. I'm sure it's done 2 or 3 mil. Again, shout out to Eric. Again, this was enough to put the battery in my back. So what motivated y'all? I'd love to hear in the comments. Throw something below. All right, so today we're talking about the 40 books to transform your life. And we're talking about the books that transform mine. Again, all links are below. If you're watching on Amazon, I'm checking y'all over on the iPad. If you're watching on Amazon, what have you, all these books, I think maybe one book isn't linked in there, but all those links are available at the bringyourworth.tv website. This is an important one. This is an important one. This is an important one. All the stuff that we do, all the stuff that we read, the things that we read do not have to make us happy. And a lot of the stuff I read is nonfiction. My background is journalism again. And so the stuff that I'm reading, can be even more heart-wrenching because it's real. Like it's real. Like it really happened. You know, it's not like this fictional account. Nothing wrong with fictional accounts. Shout out to Truman Capote, who would also be on my list, but I'm focusing more on straight up nonfiction as opposed to creative nonfiction. But there's a place for that. But when something's nonfiction, like every single word and everything is about as accurate as it can get from a journalistic perspective, it hits different. One of the books that did it for me, and I have a physical copy around here, is The People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. He passed away a handful of years ago. I think he was already an older gentleman when this book came out. I discovered this book, I think, shortly after grad school. So it was a lot of books that I discovered right fresh out of grad school. Again, a very malleable time because I was still relatively young and trying to, again, find my voice and find my energy. The People's History of the United States works really, really well for one simple reason. That title explains what it means. And there's this great, great proverb, which I'm going to paraphrase. And I believe it's an African proverb that Howard, I believe he opens the book with it. He says, until the lion knows how to write, history will always be told from the perspective of the hunter. In other words, whomever survives from that, and more importantly, forget survive it, whoever has the microphone, the power, whoever has the TV show, whoever has the ability to publish their work, whoever stands up and actually can have a platform to connect with other people, they are the people that are going to be sharing and making that documented history. The problem with that, of course, is that for many ages up until today, to this day, that must be the meme of the day, to this day, the people that have access to the TV shows, to the books. Now, I don't mean reading them. I don't mean a library. That's a whole different discussion. Shout out to my libraries. But more like the people who are creating this history, it's still like extreme bias. I'm part of that. I'm part of the media. I got my master's in magazine publishing from Northwestern. So I do not come from a rich family, but somehow I was able to get in there. And now I'm trying to give that game to y'all. But even I am an extreme exception to this day as far as African-American men who graduated with a master's in magazine publishing from, at that time, the #1 journalism school in the country. I am a rarity. I'm like, yeah, there's so many analogies I come up with. I'm sure you can use your imagination, but I'll keep it light. What I love about Howard's work, not only this book, but other books that he's done, and the book is very thick. Again, I have my copy around here, but that shows I'm actually reading these books. These are not for play. I'm reading it it's somewhere around here. What I love is that he's given a perspective on all these different parts of American history up until recent times, up until I want to say the 80s, based on the view of the culture that was not expressed and or what that was repressed. That is powerful. I believe the book opens up with the years right before Christopher Columbus came. And for you history buffs and or fellow bookworms, you know there was a book that came out, I want to say about 10 years ago, called 1491. Heard it was an excellent book. I have not read it, but I heard it's excellent. It's basically taking that concept. Howard did that like 20, 30 years before that. No shade at the person who wrote 1491, because it was way more in depth. Howard did that like in a chapter. And after reading, I want to say it's the first, maybe second chapter. After that, reading that chapter, I was so angry. Mostly because, not just because of the challenges with the Native Americans here. I spent some time in Vancouver. I've heard a lot of the stories of y'all up there. We got all kinds of stuff coming up now, quite literally, unfortunately, with the Native American schools that are created in South Canada and all this, like all kinds of literally things get buried and brought up to the ground, all kinds of stuff coming up. Hopefully there's reparations as well as forgiveness that happens along the way. When you read those kinds of things, at least for me, it's not just, excuse me, it's not just, okay, these things happen. That's messed up. I'm from New Jersey, which was originally Native American land. I forget the original name of it, but do you know what I mean? Like all these different types of things. For me, at least, it's a step beyond that. It's also a step of how many, because I'm a storyteller. So how many of these stories were never told? How many of these were never shared? How many stories, not only were they not given the voice or the space to do so because things weren't fair, and I'm being kind about that, but also how many actually had stories to tell, told those stories, and they were actively repressed because they told those stories. How many were silenced? Those are two separate things. It's one thing to not have the platform, to not speak up. That's like, to not speak up, that's a personal choice. If you don't speak up for yourself or your people, okay, that's choice. No shade, just that's a choice. You see me on air every day this month, so that is absolutely a choice. You're making a choice now. When you're actively repressed, though, that's a whole different story. That means you might have had the opportunity, or maybe you even did speak up and you got shut down by the powers that be. This book like lit a fire in me, and I'm like, oh, wow, like everything. And of course, that reverberates. We're going back to Christopher Columbus, so that reverberates. What's that? 5, 6 centuries at this point. Time's flying, right? So whatever successes, quote unquote, came from that dominant force at that period of time. If you know your compound interest, then you know that it accrues over time. The reverse is also true for those Native American cultures, for the African American cultures, for those Chinese American cultures. Don't even get me started on San Francisco. Like all those different vibes, that means the opposite is also true. That means that that repression and those assets, those things that were stolen from us, those ways that we could have thrived, but we were stopped from doing so, not by choice, but by force. That means the compound interest of that, whatever that anger is, whatever that frustration, whatever those deficits are, deficits can also compound. So you have compound interest in your checking account, or I'm sorry, your savings account, or you can have compound interest in your credit card debt. They both do the same thing. This book gets into that. I could do a whole episode about the book. It's a fantastic book. Rest in peace to Howard Zinn. Your voice is still here. I couldn't just do one book. I couldn't. I tried. I got 40 books in there. I'm not good at editing when it comes to that. I'm a great editor, but not when it comes to that stuff. Fellow book, and a band playing on. Another powerhouse, another Brown book. I'm saying there was a formative time, particularly when I was reading this book. This book is about the history of the HIV/AIDS crisis. I'm old, but I'm not quite that old. So a lot of stuff that happened in this book, I was like my kid's age or a little bit older, or whatever. So a lot of this stuff I didn't know, or if I knew it, I saw it through a kid's eyes. And if you're a kid in the 80s, you knew what AIDS was, or at least you're familiar with it, because you think of Rock Hudson, I think of Ryan White, rest in peace, the little kid who got it through, who got HIV through a blood transfusion, and he was really close to Michael Jackson, and Michael was at the height of his stardom, so it made a big deal. Similar to Princess Di, also at the height of her stardom, rest in peace, and her supporting a lot of people who were at that time really, really, truly dying of AIDS. It's not like today where there's ways to extend life. It was like you got that, and then you could be gone in weeks, months. No exaggeration. So it was a scary time, even as a little kid. As it gets to the history of it, the repression of it. Again, for so many people that I know and love in the LGBTQ community, and their uncles, their mentors, people that they loved and respected, they are gone. You got me teary-eyed over here, but they are gone. You can be mad and upset about HIV and AIDS and the millions of lives, tens of millions probably at this point, that it's touched, and or that people have been passed away. But then similar to Howard Zinn's work, and shout out to Randy, I think he might have passed away in recent years. with Randy's work, it's also hard, similar to reading Zen stuff, because we could have done better. And again, this is filled with the ghosts and the memories of people who could perhaps have lived, and we made decisions as a whole, as a country, maybe even as a world power, if you want to use that term, that changed the course of many lives, including my own. And so it's kind of deep to kind of see that impact of people that I love and care about, and see them in pain because of decisions that were made well before many of us were born or even had the power to influence the world. That's why you got to speak up, use your voice. Between this and the people's history in the United States, again, gets me emotional because powerful stuff. Fantastic book, by the way. None of these books are garbage. None of these are garbage writers. Like, I'm not going to recommend a book and the writing is just okay. No, these are like powerhouse writers. Eric Schlosser does not play. Howard Zinn, rest in peace, does not play. And Randy does not play with this book. They're not coming to play with y'all. Fantastic book. Be sure and check it out. So with y'all, like, y'all that are watching, y'all that are connecting, what book has made you angry / motivated? Like, what put the fire underneath your behind to say, like, okay, I have to make these impacts. You know what I'm trying to say? I have to make an impact in a certain way. I have to move things in a certain way. What I'm doing isn't enough. I need to take it to the next level. If you wanted more insight, as far as more good books to read after you get through the 40 below, no pun intended, the best books of 2023 so far. I did this back in May of this year. I want to say April or May. Check it out. It is still some of my favorite books that came out this year. There's more great books coming out this year. Be sure and stay tuned to the live. Again, if you're liking the vibe of the show, be sure and subscribe. And I come to you every Wednesday and Sunday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. And this month, the month of September 2023, I will be coming to you every day with the live energy, every workday. You won't see me on the weekends. I do have a life. All right. What audiobook motivated you the most? Why is that huge? Oh my God, that's huge. Why is that so huge? That is hilarious. All right, let me see if I can fix this. Please scroll it. Oh my gosh. The technology is messing with it. I was like, oh my God. Thought I need new glasses. Again, I'm getting old, but I didn't think I was getting old that fast. All right. So, what audiobooks motivated you the most? There's some great audiobooks, but this is like a layup. This is an easy one. The Art of Exceptional Living. Sorry, I'm clapping in the microphone. You got me excited over here. I'm showing my Jersey roots. I need to relax. The Art of Exceptional Living by Jim Rohn. If you don't know who Jim Rohn is, please look him up. I have a couple episodes about him. Look him up on YouTube. Google him. Get one of his audiobooks. Just plug in. Old school. I want to say he passed away about 10 years ago, he passed away right before I got into him, unfortunately. So I discovered him and I was like, oh, he died like a year ago. It sucked, right? That hurts when you have like someone you really are into and you're like, oh, they already passed away. I want more of their work. This is it. Jim Rohn, classic motivational speaker. And I do mean motivational speaker. A lot of y'all know I do professional speaking, so I don't call everybody a motivational speaker. Sometimes I'm a motivational speaker, sometimes I'm not. This guy was the capital T, capital H, capital E motivational speaker of his generation. He actually schooled Tony Robbins and some other folks. So if you're rocking with Tony Robbins, who of course is a powerhouse, he's like a generation above me. He learned from Jim Rohn. So you'll see some of that energy. Not as frenetic, but definitely as passionate. This audiobook is like his best of. I was getting his keynotes here, his keynotes there. You know what I mean? Like almost like found art. It's like, oh, that joint. Oh, that joint. This is the one where it was just like everything. And in fact, this is my poor attempt to do the Art of Exceptional Living. I got a strong ego, but I'm not going to pretend like I'm on his level. This is my attempt to do that. Taking with the complete Bring Your Worth collection. Again, all the links are below. It'll be out in a month. This one is amazing. I remember getting this audiobook a handful of years ago. Around the time I wrote Bring Your Worth, which is, of course, the name of the show, but it's actually a book called Bring Your Worth, which I have. There we go. Can't miss the yellow. You know, you guys have been watching for a while, and you know this little book. I wrote it around the time that I got really inspired by Jim Rohn, which was again a handful of years ago. Rough personal time in my life, as well as career wise. And what I love about Jim's work is that he works from wherever you are. There's some motivational speakers, they'll be like, oh, well, you should do this, do that. You should do this. Why aren't you doing that? That's not, at least from me, that's not his energy. His energy is more like, okay, well, you got 50 cents. Well, let's see how you can turn it into $1. And then he'll break down the situations he was in. And he was in some situations. And I remember walking around, because I always do walks as I did this morning. I remember walking around for like an hour, just listening to him and being like, oh, he gets it. He gets it. Excuse me. And I love the energy of it because, again, he's not saying that you're screwing up. That's not how I do things as a coach either. Some coaches do it. Some of you are motivated that way. I'm not motivated that way, so I don't coach like that. You can tell he's a business coach, though. Like, you can just feel the energy. Instead, his argument is saying, what if you actually had enough to change your life? Not that you have to get the $1 million check, not you have to be in the perfect relationship, not you have to be the perfect father or mother or whatever, not that you have to live in the perfect city. What if you had enough resources to impact the world based on where you're at right now? Does that sound familiar? That's why this guy with Jim Rohn, was such an impactful audiobook for me. I will listen to it regularly. It is fantastic. And just because he doesn't blame me, at the same time, he does very much call you to task. Be like, are you really doing the most that you can? Are you maximizing with the resources that you have? Are you maximizing your impact in the world? Are you maximizing how you can take care of your family? Are you doing the good service? Not even in a religious way, but just like service. Like, how are you serving the world based on the resources you got? And chances are there's other people, which it's not even competition, but more understanding. There are other people that have way less resources than you that are out there killing it in a good way. So what are you going to do today? What are you going to do today? That energy is so powerful to me. I love it. One of my favorite audiobooks of all time. As y'all know, I have a lot of favorite audiobooks. Some of them are linked below, but this is definitely my top 5 on this recommended list. So what audiobooks, if you're into audiobooks, what audiobooks have motivated you the most? Be sure and throw something in the comments. Let me know what y'all are feeling. Again, I was always a traditional book guy, and then I got into audiobooks around the time I became a dad because, you got poopy diapers and throw up. You can't be turning your books all delicately. You can't do that. You can't be like, oh, so what happened next? Yes. No, you can't do that. If you're in the battle zone, whatever battle zone or arena you happen to be in, shout out to Brene Brown. There's a couple of her books on there too. Whatever battle zone or arena you happen to be in, you gotta play your part. And again, work with the resources you got. No pun intended. All right. My last question. What book changed the course of your life? This is tough. Throw in the comments, what books have changed the course of your life? This was the toughest question for me because there were so damn many of them. But one of them, if you've been a long time viewer of the show, you know the deal. Daily Stoic. Shout out to the authors. Shout out to Holiday and Hanselman. They killed it. They killed it. They killed it. They killed it. What I love about this book is that it takes these relatively obscure, there's a link right there. It takes these relatively obscure concepts, obscure to someone like myself who doesn't know anything about Stoicism. Stoicism, we're talking like in Plato's time. Well, a little bit past Plato, but not that far past. These relatively obscure concepts from Greek and Roman studies, and all these different things, and makes them applicable to now. Here's the trick. The stuff that we're saying was already applicable all the time. That's what I try to do with my own work, particularly, again, with the Bring Your Worth collection coming out. I'm trying to make it timeless. This stuff is timeless. It's also in a format that works really well. I'll try to show a page for y'all. let's see. So we'll do September 25th because that seems appropriate. The vulnerability of dependence. So, I am reading from the book. I'm not just doing it by memory. Excuse me. Show me someone who isn't a slave. One is a slave to lust, another to greed, another to power, and all are slaves to fear. I could name a former consul who was a slave to a little old woman, a millionaire who was a slave of the cleaning woman. No servitude is more abject than the self imposed. That sounds really similar. And that's just on one day. So there's one for every day of the year. And then some, it's 366 meditations. And then there's like a paragraph where the authors themselves, the Ryan Holiday and Stefan Hanselman, break down what it means. But that quote was just from Seneca, I believe. And that quote was from millennia ago. But that wasn't even on purpose. That was what we were just talking about. As far as with sometimes we're repressed, sometimes power is taken away from us. That's an awful place to be. What's worse, though, is when we take away our own power. That's just one day, happening September 25th. I randomly pulled it up, one day of game. The audiobook version really changed my life. And I was listening to it. I just became a stay-at-home dad. My wife just went back to work. And it's just me and my little man who just turned 10. But so 10 years ago, my little man, and I'm changing diapers. I'm trying to write books. I was starting my first startup, which is called So Quotable, which led to my success with Cuddler the year after, and eventually selling the startup the year after that when he turned 2. It was just a very intense and frankly confusing time because I felt like I had all these identities that were pulling on me, including some new identities. And I'm like, how am I as a father? How do I speak to my kid who can't speak back? Like, and I can't understand. I'm like, where do I go from there? It was such a grounding to have that audio with me. And yeah, like he listened to that audio a lot. I put on the iPad, not the same iPad I have here, but I put on the iPad, just put it on, and then I'm changing diapers, I'm playing with them, I'm feeding them. If you have little kids, like babies and toddlers, you know how hands-on it is. And to be able to have that experience and for me to level up while being present for my kid. It's a great memory. It's a great memory. But I just got the physical copy of this in recent, I want to say at the top of the summer. And fall just began a couple of days ago. So here in the United States. So I just got this physical copy like a few months ago. So I wanted the physical copy. And as you can see, doing my best to go through it every day. Not every day, but I do my best. And I'm glad I read it to y'all today. Fantastic book. It really was transformative as far as changing how I looked at life and having an objective viewpoint when I was going to new territory. Ironically, and I was talking to a family member about it earlier, this period of time in my career, in my life, even how I'm connecting with y'all. I talk about it in the episode that ran a week ago, Build Your Subscribers from Zero, with when James Oliver Jr. interviewed me. And I talked about how, again, I went from a few hundred of y'all tuning in to literally tens of thousands of y'all subscribing and watching. And it feels like a similar shift to me where there's a certain way that I have to level up now because what I was doing before doesn't quite work. Not in a bad way, but like wanting to give my most and best to y'all and knowing that the way that I continue to show up, I have to be open to finding better ways to serve y'all. And it's similar to when I became a parent. It's similar to when I did my first startup. Both of those happened at the same time. I would not recommend. But you know what I mean? When you level up and get to the next level, when you level up, part of the skill is recognizing when it's actually time to level up. In other words, when you get to the next level, part of the ways you can do that is recognizing when it's time to do so. So if you are in a certain situation and you know you have to be better, do better, and you keep doing the same thing, that's going to stunt your growth and you're not going to be able to get to the next level. Or at least it's going to be a lot harder. You won't grow as much as you could. The Daily Stoic is an excellent book that talks about, hey, you can show up a little bit better, and this can be a daily process. We're going to do it with you. Fantastic book. And as you can probably tell, I can talk about it all day. And I did do a whole episode about it. So it was actually one of the first Bring Your Worth episodes. Shout out to y'all that were there from the beginning, coming on the 3-year anniversary in a couple months. It's the reverse clause, the biggest Stoic secret. I'm not even going to talk about it. Just watch the episode. One of my favorite episodes. It's only about 5-6 minutes long. It talks about one of my favorite little tiny chapters. All the chapters are like, I'm sorry, call them chapters. All the chapters are like 1 page long. Like what I read you was like almost the entire chapter for that day, for today. And it's probably my favorite one out of all of it. I think about it all the time. I got some stuff I'm going through now, career-wise and otherwise. I'm 100% thinking about it now. So even if you're having a rough time, even if you're trying to figure stuff out, check out the episode and then buy the book. I've recommended this book hundreds of times. I got the statistics. Lots of y'all have bought the book. So I will die on this hill. It is a fantastic book. And I'm so glad that so many of y'all are getting so much out of it. If you want to catch some of my recommendations from earlier this year, if the 40 books are not enough, be sure and check out the live from, I think it was like springtime, maybe mid-year, the best books of 2023 so far. It was a popular episode, and I love all the authors that end up featuring in there. The books are fantastic. I will be live tomorrow on Tuesday with an episode, getting it warmed up for y'all. But usually I'm every Wednesday and Sunday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. If you do not want to miss an episode, you hit the little notifications. If you're on Amazon, you can follow me. If you're on bringyourworth.tv or youtube.com/Brown Damon, so you're watching on YouTube, you can go ahead and click the link below to subscribe. It's free, and then you hit the notification bell. And I will see y'all tomorrow at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Thank you for celebrating my big day with me. Wouldn't have it any other way. I'm going to go and hang out with my family. And until next time, remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves. I'll see y'all tomorrow, same time.